No, I didn't get that fancy. Okay, hey, we are
There we
live now.
go. Yay, that took a couple tries.
Yeah, third time's a charm. But anyway,
Yes.
good morning. Happy weekend, all of my US friends, and happy tomorrow if you're in Australia. Happy Sunday. Getting back with my friend Cristie here. So, first of all, Cristie, tell me just anything that's on your mind. What's been going on with you?
Oh my
Like, for
goodness.
example,
Well,
okay, we were talking beforehand and we were kind of rehashing on what we would need to update people on. And one
yes.
thing was that you had gone to your functional medicine doctor, or to the one that, the carnivore friendly doctor.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
there were some lab results that hadn't come in yet the last time we talked. And so I believe that was your thyroid
Yes,
labs. So,
absolutely. So I can't believe, first of all, Carrie, that it's been 2 months. That was my fault. We had one scheduled, and then I was like, my life is crazy right now. And then you're like, yeah, let's reschedule. And then that text just sat in my phone
oh,
for like weeks because I was just so busy. And then I kept feeling bad, like I'm not ignoring my friend Carrie. But yeah, life was just crazy. It starts for me in September when my son has his birthday in September. And then it's like, the school just gets crazy, and then my
yeah.
birthday comes around, my son's birthday comes around, the holiday, like, yeah, it's just a crazy time of year. But here we are, and you are right. So 2 months ago I had that lab work done at my, yeah, she's not a functional medicine doctor. I was very happy and blessed to find her within my insurance system,
That is
because
great.
yeah, we spend a lot of money. Like, they say, well, teachers, have good insurance, and we do, but it has gotten more and more and more and more expensive. So I
Mhm.
pay several $100s a month, like $600 or $700 a month
Yeah.
out of every paycheck, just to have this health insurance. So I would like to use it. Like, of course, I want everything to be, I don't want somebody that's like fighting me and doesn't, going to tell me I'm going to need to take a statin and all that kind of stuff. But if I
Ugh,
can
no.
find a practitioner within my healthcare system that I'm already, putting out my money for, that was kind of my goal. And I did find a doctor who has done keto in the past, who is very open to it, even carnivore. So that was super awesome. And she ran a lot more blood work at my request, that my other doctor just wouldn't run, even though she's like, I don't really, like she fully said, I don't understand those numbers, but I'll run it for you. And so it was pretty cool that she was willing to do that. And
Yep.
so one of the things that my other doctor tested for was thyroid at my request, but she only tested for, I believe it was the free T4. She tested for free T4 and TSH.
Mhm.
And my TSH was super elevated. Like, I'm not a doctor at all, and I don't remember the exact range, but like the high end of the range for TSH is like 4 point something.
Mhm.
And if you're high TSH, it means you're actually hypothyroid, because your TSH is your thyroid stimulating hormone, which is coming from your pituitary. And if it's sensing that there's not enough of the thyroid hormones around, the pituitary starts screaming at your thyroid, like, get on the stick. You're not doing your job. Let's go. But the thyroid's not listening. The thyroid's like, nope, because it has something going on. So the TSH just keeps elevating and elevating, trying to get your thyroid to do something, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so my thyroid was not listening, and my TSH was like 6. I don't remember the exact numbers, you guys, but it was like 6.5. It was a really, really high. And I even showed those numbers to Dr. Amy Horniman back in
Oh,
May at Hack Your Health. And she is a thyroid specialist. You can find her on Instagram and YouTube. And that's what she does is, and she's very like pro carnivore diet and keto and all that stuff. And
yeah.
I saw her speak and stuff at Hack Your Health. And so she was there. So I'm like, check out these numbers. And she's like, yeah, you don't have all the numbers you need, but based on your TSH, you clearly have a thyroid issue. And my other doctor just wouldn't do anything, because she was like, your cholesterol's high and that's all I want to talk to you about. And I was like, but my thyroid's out of whack. I have no energy. Can we talk about that? And we just got to this
Right.
impasse. So by the time I got my new doctor, like 6 months had gone by, and so she retested my numbers. And what had I been doing? I tried iodine. I like to add one thing at a time, because if you add a bunch of stuff, you have no idea what changed it, if you add more than one thing. So I
Right.
did iodine for several months. I felt the same. Like, I felt the same, no change, low energy. At one point, my hair fell out. Now it's growing back. I have all these hairs that are like 1.5 inches long. So it started growing back, and that's pretty good. But like, my nails are thin and brittle and like low energy and these kind of thyroid symptoms, right? Felt no different with the thyroid stuff, or with the energy.
Yeah.
And so the iodine, I stopped that only because I just wanted to do one thing at a time. Not that I thought it was hurting me, but I'm like, let me try something else. And so I got like a desiccated beef thyroid supplement. And I started taking that like right before I went to my new doctor, maybe a few weeks, 2-3 weeks. And who knows if it's placebo or whatever, but my energy seemed to pick up, like not a lot, but a little bit. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is promising. So she agreed to test my numbers, but she's like, if you want to know what your thyroid is doing without that beef thyroid supplement in there, you're going to have to stop taking it for like, I forget what she said, like 6 weeks though, like a long time. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because I'm starting to feel better. And so I don't actually want to do that. I'm going to keep taking it, and let's just see, what's what. So that's what I did. So she did my TSH when she tested those numbers. Now they're not in the normal range, but remember, they were in the 6s, and they were down in the 4s, and like the top of the normal range is in the 4s. So it was like just slightly. So clearly they have come down. It has come down, meaning my pituitary gland's like, okay, things are getting better. Like, I don't have to I'm not having to yell, at the thyroid thing. So my TSH had come down. Now my free T4 was normal before, and it was still normal. She tested my T3, and that was normal, but it was very low normal. T3 is the active form of thyroid. It's the one that actually makes you feel energy or not, or whatever. It's the thing that you're going to notice. And so back to Dr. Amy, she says that, first of all, she based all of her, like, if she's going to give you supplements or whatever, like on how you feel. So even if your numbers are normal, if you're feeling terrible, let's do something about that. That's kind of her philosophy.
Yeah.
But, she recommends that T3 be at the high end of that normal range, or even a little bit above it, depending on how you're feeling. And so I don't know what my T3 was before, because my other doctor didn't test it. So I found a different thyroid supplement that a lady at work recommended. It has more thyroid in there, and I've been doing that. And then I added the iodine back in. So that's kind of where we left off. It's like, I feel like my thyroid is moving in the right direction. I want to test again, and hopefully my T3 will go up a little bit more, and my TSH will come back, come down, because everything is starting to, work. I had almost no thyroid antibodies to speak of. It wasn't 0. I know Dr. Berry says it should be 0. I think it was like, I don't know, 1 or something. Like,
oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's like, good. Yeah.
It's not like a raging case of Hashimoto's, where it's up really high. Cause I was worried about that, thinking maybe it's Hashimoto's. So I'm feeling more energy. In fact, I was able to quit caffeinated coffee. This that I'm drinking this morning is decaf coffee. I've pretty much gotten rid of all caffeinated coffee, because I don't feel like I just have to keep drinking that to just have any kind of energy. So yeah. I think overall my thyroid is moving in the right direction, and my doctor said 6 to 12 months she'll test again. I haven't had any further testing, because I would have to pay out of pocket then, and so I'm waiting for that time frame to go by. I'll give her a call, get some more blood work, and just see if how my thyroid is looking. So that's really good news.
Good news. That is really good news. So encouraging. Well, I had about, let's see, I'm trying to think of it. Well, it was last month, maybe a couple weeks ago. I had a nerve conduction test. Well, I guess it was the beginning of October, because my MRI was actually last week. But anyway, I had a nerve conduction test. I have compression and some like cervical spondylosis and stuff like that with my neck in C5 and 6. It's compressed, and there's like apparently like some arthritis and stuff in there. And so it had really, I've had this, or I've actually been tested, I guess, and been aware of what it was for about like 12 or 13 years. So it was before I started this whole low carb keto journey. And it's progressively felt better, but I really hadn't had an MRI since, I mean, it was pre-COVID. I know I would have to go back and actually look to see when the last MRI was. But I also had a nerve conduction test. Goodness, excuse me. I must have some allergies going on or something. But anyway, okay. So I had a nerve conduction test, and it showed that there was some obstruction and stuff that was affecting, like it was causing numbness and stuff in my right pinky. And I have noticed that it's a whole lot better, that it doesn't, I don't really have that issue anymore. But I went and the doctor was like, well, it's been, all this time since we've tested this. So let's see how you are now. And so the MRI was scheduled and the nerve conduction test was scheduled. So one thing, I'm going to go to the side a little bit on the nerve conduction test, because I was actually talking to the doctor. He was the one who actually performed it. And by the way, if you've never had one of those, it's almost like a legal form of torture. I mean, they actually send a shock through you, and they track how long it takes for it. Like they put all these little electrode things on you and stuff. And then I guess it tracks the pulse, and like however quickly that it goes through, then that's better. And then obviously if it takes longer, I guess, then they can identify where that problem is. And so, but it is painful. It hurt. But I was talking to him, and I told him, that I, don't eat processed. I didn't really get into diet per se initially. And I just said, yeah, I think it's doing a whole lot better. I feel a lot better. And I said, I believe it's how it has to do with the way I eat. I don't eat processed food. And he says, oh yeah, he said, he asked me, several people have asked me this actually, since they know I'm carnivore and everything. But anyway, he was like, oh, so do you follow RFK Jr.? And I was like, yeah, I do. I think it's a great thing that, the word is getting out there. I mean, strike politics from everything, but I mean, just the fact that it's being discussed, because it's always been so taboo. I mean, you just don't dare go against, the whole food pyramid and all of that. But anyway, so he says, it's best to just eat natural, meat and vegetables. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, because he was actually not talking about like healthy whole. Matter of fact, he said he hasn't eaten grains in years. Okay. I was like, this is so encouraging. So it was a very pleasant experience in terms of, other than the shock part, but it was pleasant, talking to him and stuff. So anyway, we have the nerve conduction test done. And he says, well, he said, and he looked at my old results. And he says, you don't have that nerve obstruction anymore. He said, he says, it looks like you might have slight carpal tunnel, but he said, other than that, your nerve conduction is normal. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because there's actually conclusive test results before and after. So that just to me I was like, and it goes to show too. Now, I don't know when, I didn't have tests every year or even every 2 or 3 years. I mean, it had been a long time between tests, but I think as a society and as people, especially in the United States, we want microwave, we want it quick, we want it now. I don't know how many years it took. I do know that, as time went on, I felt better and better and better. But that just goes to show it could be years. So I just want to encourage people that, just keep it up. Just keep going, because I truly believe the way I eat has affected that. And I went and got an MRI last week, and I have an appointment scheduled toward the end of this month to find out the results of that. And so it'll be very interesting to see if they notice anything actually in the MRI with the between C5 and 6 and all of that, as to whether there's actually a visible improvement there. And if there is, then I'm going to tout it to the world, because I just know that I feel so much better. Anybody who's watched any of my videos, probably you might even think I get ridiculous about it, but I do want to let the world know that if nothing else, I mean, just your mental health, your lack of anxiety, your just being able to deal with problems and to just be calm and reason through things as they happen, stressful events or whatever. So even just with that, but now there's actually, I mean, you can't really test that, you know. I mean, you obviously can say, I feel better, but that's not something that people can actually see necessarily. And it's certainly not something that you can really test for other than maybe like depression testing or something like that. You know, the tests they do to, like, you know, I have no interest in daily activities. I mean, I suppose maybe that could be something, but to actually have test results there, you know, something that's medically acceptable, I think is just huge. So we'll see. We'll update next time about the MRI, because even if it's not worse, because, you know, as you age, supposedly you get worse. So even if it's the same after all these years, that would even be something, because you know that it's not progressively getting worse.
Right. And that's what everybody says. Like that you get these problems and then they just progressively get worse and there's like no hope or no way out. And so even if it looks the same, so you've had an MRI in the past, right? So they'll be able to compare this new one to the old one, even if it looks the same, but like your symptoms are better.
Yep.
Like that's amazing. So yeah, I've had low thyroid symptoms since my 20s. I've been exhausted, you know, and I just had a birthday. So I'm now 49, Carrie. It's my last year in my 40s, and I'm very happy about that. It was a couple weeks ago, but we're still, my husband's funny.
Well, hey.
We haven't gone out to dinner yet. We're going out to dinner tonight. I'm excited for my ribeye later.
I was going to ask you if you were going to get a tomahawk.
Yeah, no, probably just a regular ribeye that I don't have to cook. That's the good part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that's what, over 20 years of suffering with these symptoms, but I've never liked doctors. I never went and had it tested. I never liked getting blood work and all of that. So I don't have blood work from before, but I can go off of how I feel. And I would say that most people say probably that they would have more energy in their 20s and their 40s. Yeah, not me. Like, you know, here I am in my late 40s and way more energy to do things and to do daily activities. Speaking of, you know, your comment there on the depression test, than I ever had in my 20s. I had to like force myself in my 20s to get up and do much of anything.
Right.
But so just the other day, I was on a live stream that I was doing with Nia. Nia does Carnivore Mastermind on Thursdays. And it was like a Halloween topic, right? So I'm talking about, yeah, I'm just kind of lucky now because my kids are older, you know, they're 16 and 18. So the trick-or-treating days are behind me. You know, I worked all day today. I'm doing this. And then I'm looking forward to just leaving my porch light off. I'm not having to take anybody trick-or-treating or dealing with what's going to happen with all that candy and stuff. And I was talking about, I'm going to take a nice bath and I'm going to, you know, whatever. I'm going to relax.
Yes.
And then and I said that toward the beginning, and then the live stream is wrapping up. I think Doc Nelson was watching. The live stream is wrapping up and my son walks in and he's like, Mom, are you muted? Because he knows this is like my live streaming. When I'm sitting here, I'm live streaming. I'm like, yes, I'm muted. What's up? And he's like, I got invited to go trick-or-treating at 5:30. Carrie, it was 5:05.
Oh, wow.
Can I eat dinner really fast and go trick-or-treating with my friends? So I'm like, you know, you're talking about dealing with stuff at the last minute, right? These last minute things that our kids do. So he went carnivore in February, for those of you that might not know, to help his ADHD. And he's just been doing mostly fantastic. School is still an issue. We could talk about that later if you want, but school is still that hasn't been fixed. But in all the other ways, he's just doing fantastic. And so I got off, I did my closing because Nia has everyone go around and talk about like what, you know, where can we find you on the internet? So I did that. And then I didn't listen to everybody else's. I just said, hey, my son just told me he wants to go trick-or-treating. So I'm going to hop off and figure that out. Right. So I get off the live stream. I'm like, okay, so do you have a costume? No. He said, you know, and I knew he didn't.
Of course not.
No, because it's right before. Why would he have a costume? Right. And so I said, well, do you care about that? Like, what's your plan for that? And he's like, no, I don't really care. He's like, I got to show you something. Check this out. He goes, my friend sent me this. And so it's like this screenshot of a character from the video game Guitar Hero. And this character in this game, which I don't play. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't play. But it looks just like my son. And he's like in this t-shirt. It looks like him. So what he did when he went trick-or-treating is he had his phone and he's like, I'm this guy from Guitar Hero.
Right.
He like when I was a teenager, if my friends were going trick-or-treating and I didn't have a costume, I wouldn't have gone because I would have been like, well, that's not socially acceptable. Like, I can't go out there without a costume. That's embarrassing, right? He did not skip a beat. And he was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is my solution. And then I said, what are your plans for? I said, are you going to take candy? Like, what are you going to do about the candy? And he goes, I'm going to take it. I'll just give it to my friends, And I'm like, okay. So I dropped him off a little after 5:30 at his friend's house. They trick-or-treated. My son, who is my other son, who is almost 19, picked him up for me. And so he was out for like 4 hours with his buddies. I asked him afterwards, like, how'd that go? And he's like, oh, it was so fun. We put all the candy in the middle. Everybody just took what they wanted. Anything that I still have, I'm just going to give away to my friends at school. So he didn't eat any candy. He totally focused on hanging out with his friends and just having the trick-or-treating experience. Hopefully nobody, I know some people are upset when teenagers go trick-or-treating, but I think it's cool. Let them hang on to that childhood a little bit longer. They could be out doing so much worse stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, they had a great time and I thought that was super cool. And that's the fourth social thing he's done in like 2.5 weeks. He was not social. He was like in his room on his video games, that he might do something once a year, maybe. But yeah, he invited a friend over. He went to a school dance. He got invited to a birthday party and went to that. And then he got invited trick-or-treating and went and did that. And all of those things were like squarely within October, like within a 2.5 week range. Like he got off of his video games and computer games and like just went out and hung out with people in real life. It was super cool.
So he's just really blossoming. He's just
100%.
Like, yeah, that is just amazing. That is so great to hear. And it's really encouraging, I think, for other people to hear this because, there again, with just the awareness of health that's been going on lately, we've realized that with children, there are so many health problems and issues that just weren't around, 30 or 40 years ago. So it's really good. And, this may sound stupid and it sort of happened with my cat. I was just naive. Like, I just figured if they were selling it in the store, I mean, I know this is dumb, but I mean, you think if they're selling it, that it's safe to feed, or safe for them to eat. I mean, I just really didn't think, and I know it's logical, that cats are predators, they're carnivores, obligate carnivores, really. I mean, that's what they do. They kill mice and rabbits and whatever they can get, birds. If you let them outside, that's what they do. And that's what they eat. But I just never really thought of that. And so then as gradually I started my own health journey, then I realized, it is about what you put in your body in food. And just because they sell it in the store doesn't mean it's healthy at all. Matter of fact, chances are if you're getting it from the store, it's not healthy.
Yes.
It's just it's a whole mind shift. And I'm just so glad that it's being talked about and that the awareness is getting out there because we've got to do something for our kids. I mean, for everybody, for sure. For the whole country, but for children, it's really sad to see. And I know you, Cristie, because you and my daughter-in-law, she is a teacher, and so she sees. And then likewise, you being a teacher, you deal with it firsthand. And I'm sure in the years that you've been teaching, you've seen a lot of, changes from the time you started up until now. Just
It's really gone downhill. With the overall, like the length of kids' attention spans, for one example. And I think a lot of that is diet. And I think the other part is the amount of screen time that kids are getting from a very young age. And I see that as well, because like, let's say during parent conference week, the parent comes in for their conference and they have, I teach fifth grade. So they're like around 10 years old, but of course, a lot of them have younger children, like babies. or very young children, and they bring them because obviously, they can't be left alone. They don't have a sitter or whatever. And so they bring them. And what do? They put an iPad or their phone in front of them to like get through that conference. And yeah, that's only 20 minutes, but that's what they're doing like on a regular basis. That's their go-to move. And I think it's so sad. And I wasn't any better. Like, this is no judgment because, they want to hear about their older kid. They want to keep that little kid quiet. I was no better. We didn't do the portable devices, but for sure, because I had with my son, and you've heard the story of like his behavior and stuff. And a lot of it was survival for me. Like, sit him down in front of, Disney Junior or whatever, because he's going to sit there and like not be throwing a fit. Because we went through these cyclical, fits that he would throw. I wish I had known about diet so much sooner. Same as you were saying, I had no idea. And because of the texture issues that actually both of my sons dealt with, I was like, whatever they'll eat, right? Like whatever they'll get in their stomach and not throw up. And it was at the store, like the goldfish crackers, and it was a lot of that kind of stuff, graham crackers and vanilla wafers. Like these are things that they would eat without throwing up. They would be able to, eat something and get those calories in when they were hungry. But yeah, so I didn't know thing one about how terrible that stuff was, and that was probably the cause of a lot of their, the ADHD trouble that they actually both suffer from. I wish that my almost 19-year-old would, change his diet and go for a little more meat. But yeah, he's really not interested. But my 16-year-old, it's just been in every way except for school. It's just been this night and day. Like, he can do complex tasks, organize them. He can have a conversation about XYZ without getting upset, like without just getting angry and irrational.
Well, like you told me about his room, like cleaning his room and stuff. And it's like getting a teenage boy, any teenage boy, to keep their room clean is just, so that right there is just phenomenal.
Yeah. But it was the fact that his room, we're not talking about picking up like 5 things. Like that thing looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years, because I didn't make him clean it because I was done fighting that battle. And one day he just, like, after changing his diet, he just looked around and like just decided for himself. And now he keeps it reasonably clean. And then if a friend's going to come over, like, he'll clean it up before his friend gets there. Like, I haven't said one word about cleaning the room except, wow, your room looks good, but not like, hey, don't you think you want to do that? He does his own laundry. I don't have to tell him. He's much better about his personal hygiene, which was an issue to get him to get in there and shower, take a shower, take a shower, take a shower, take a shower. He would like never shower. So his personal hygiene, he'll just go in there and shower at some point, like every day he takes a shower without me saying anything. And a lot of parents, they're like, they take that for granted because it seems like it shouldn't be. But I'm telling you, it was a battle. Like, to get him to take a shower was a battle. Everything was a battle. And now he's just doing this stuff on his own. And he's just, anytime anything's thrown at him, like yesterday, and there are still, you still see the ADHD, okay? Because this happened. Yesterday was the last football game of the season, and he's not on the football team. He plays in the band. He plays drum. So, actually it was, at least I got a day's notice. So like the day before, so Thursday, he said, it's a 4:30 call time. Should I just stay at school? It's really early. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Why is it so early? I said, yeah, just stay at school. I'll just pack you like double food in your lunch, and that way you won't be hungry. I said, but why is it so early? And he's like, he's like, I don't know, but it's early. I'm like, okay. So the football game happened, and I was there, cheering him on. And I said, so what'd you guys do with that 4:30 call time? And it was basically one of the political candidates for state Congress bought the band pizza and chips and, whatever before the game. And so he told me who the candidate was. I'm not going to get political. He goes, oh yeah, this person, bought us pizza. And so that's what we were doing. And I was like, oh, did you eat the toppings off the pizza? Because he's never done that. But I said, that's one thing you could do. And he goes, I had a few pepperoni, but he's sitting there with his old favorites, pizza and chips. And he's like, yeah, I had some pepperoni,
Wow.
Like, awesome. So it's just, he just handles this stuff with the candy, with that kind of thing. He just doesn't, it's kind of cool. And I think it's because he's so young. So it wasn't that hard. Like, once he got fat adapted, it's just not, he didn't have years and years and years of like, eating carbs for comfort and,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. I just think, and I think he feels better. So he knows, he just wants to stick to it, but he just makes it look easy. Like all of us on YouTube talking about how we're going to get through the holidays with our carb addicted brains, and he's just,
Mm-hmm.
he's just doing it,
And he just does it.
he just does it, and he's doing, fantastic, except for his grades. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and
That's right.
you just have to, like I was saying earlier, it's just the way our culture is. We want it now. So if we don't have the money for something, we'll just put it on a credit card, or if we, just whatever it is, we just want it now. We don't want to wait. And we just need to remember that, we ate, for the most part, crap. I mean, even if you didn't just eat like total junk food, I mean, still all the grains and other stuff that they told us was good for us that really isn't, plus the seed oils.
I ate so much brown rice, rice.
Yep. Yeah, because they said,
healthy.
oh, and the brown rice is better than the white rice, and just, just like that the whole wheat bread is better than just the regular white bread. And it's like, when you actually look at it, no. And this is another thing that I think most people don't know, because I think most people know that sugar, in just sugar itself is not good for us. What they don't realize, and my own father really, I think I've told you that, my brother and I go out to eat with him at least every other week. Now, my brother sees him a lot more often because of his work schedule, because he has a couple of off days during the week. And so he'll go to my dad's and like take him to, to the store, just do some stuff like that. But so we were eating, and my dad was like, oh, I'm doing so good, Minnie. He calls me Minnie. He says, you'll be proud of me. He says, I don't eat any sugar, so I'm doing really good. And I was like, well, great. And then, so this Mexican restaurant is where we go. And so but then he proceeds to start eating chips and salsa. And here's the thing. He didn't realize that is also, it converts to sugar. And I think most of us don't realize that. And when you're told to eat such a high percentage of that type of thing, and that's good for you, you just still don't think of that as being sugar. You think of sugar as sweet. You don't really think of it as, these grains convert to glucose. And
like instantly, like it starts in your mouth to convert to glucose. Yeah.
Oh, especially white bread. I mean, good grief, white bread, just like rapidly, you already know. I mean, just right away. So it's just, I'm really encouraged, though, that people are taking more of an interest, I think, in health and just what's in our food, because I'm sure most people are like I was. I mean, especially even with your cat or dog, your pets, just, okay, they sell it in the store, so it's safe or it's healthy. Well, no, it isn't. So it's good that people are becoming more and more aware, I think. And I think that the chemicals in our food is really, it was shocking to find out, just like the Canadian version of a cereal versus the US version of a cereal, as an example. Not that I haven't eaten cereal in forever, but I'm just saying that, when you can visibly look at it and see a difference, but then you look at the ingredients list and there's just this huge discrepancy in what's in there. And you're just like, wow, like there's like 5 times more ingredients in here, and I can't pronounce them. I don't know what they are. I have to Google it to find out what it is. That's pretty scary. So, yeah.
Did anyone, you, Carrie, or anyone here in the chat see the health, I guess, caucus that Senator Ron Johnson did?
I watched the whole thing.
Yes, I couldn't peel my eyes away.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I mean, fantastic. And talking about all that stuff you're saying, like even the cereal here with all that fake, all the food dyes that are totally unhealthy and banned in other countries. And they already have the formula made, and they make it with like natural. I still wouldn't eat it personally, but I'm just saying, like, people are going to eat it. So here's a story for you. and I'm going to leave some of the details vague because this is a student that I work with, and obviously confidentiality. But
Oh yeah.
I have a student, who is struggling, and we had a meeting with the principal and myself and the mom of this student, and and the mom was telling us about this condition, this medical condition that he's been diagnosed with that can end up being pretty bad and has caused lots of things like his current, weight gain and things like that. And one of the things she said, and I can hardly say this with a straight face, but she wholeheartedly thought that this was like a good choice. And parents are just doing the best they can, okay? But this is what she said. I really just he really needs to eat better because of this condition. And so I noticed that, the school breakfast is pretty bad because they're just feeding them a bunch of muffins, which I'm like, and I'm thinking she's going to say what I'm thinking she's going to say in my brain, that I've been watching all these videos, carnivore and keto and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, good, she's going to tell me that he's eating eggs now or something, right? In my head.
Yeah, bacon and eggs.
Yeah. So she goes, so I stopped giving him the school breakfast, and now he eats his cereal in the morning at home. And in her mind, she's legitimately thinking that this is a much better choice than the muffin that the school cafeteria is serving him at school. And I'm just like, I'm like, don't say anything. Don't say it. Shut your mouth. Like I'm telling myself in my head, just don't, because I'm not a doctor, right? And I'm not supposed to. So I did say, have you considered eggs? But then she went on to say that people with this condition shouldn't eat eggs. And I'm like, that's probably not true, but don't say it. Just keep your mouth shut.
Oh man.
I'm not supposed to be talking about health. I'm not supposed to be, now outside I can say, look, as a mom, this is what I would do. And I have done that, as a mom. I'm not speaking as a teacher. I'm not speaking as an employee right now at my school district. I'm talking to you mom to mom. This is what I've done. And I have said that. And I think at one point I did say, if people are sensitive to any part of the egg, it's usually the white, but like the egg yolk is going to be really healthy. But I don't think any of that I think, and it's like that cereal is so full of, first of all the processed, whole grains, but totally processed.
Yeah.
The first 3 ingredients are sugar, and sugar, and then all the artificial dyes and stuff that are in there. I'm just thinking. And
the different words for sugar. Because people, I think if they are aware and they look at a label, they don't realize that that sugar has so many aliases. so they might be saying, okay, well, I'm not going to have any added sugar in my food, but they look, and so sure, the word sugar isn't on the label. It's not listed as an ingredient, but then there's all these other terms that might be on there that they just don't know. And so, that's a huge misconception that we all have. I mean, we've had, is that, sugar is sweet. That's bad. But, we've been told for so many years. I mean, the base of the food pyramid, for example, is
all those grains,
the whole grains, and gosh, 7 to 11 servings. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yes, it is. And I told my mom that same story that I just told you guys, thinking she was going to have my same reaction. She's been keto for like 2 months after me. She's been eating nothing but a whole bunch of meat and some veg, right? And some cheese and whatever. But she's been meat-based keto, right? I thought she was going to go, oh my gosh, that's so sad or whatever. But it's like, she goes, well, it depends on the cereal. And I'm like, but no, it really does. Like she's thinking, she's still thinking like plain Cheerios or whatever are healthier than Lucky Charms. And I'm like, but actually no. And then I explained it to her again, and not that she would eat that because it's carbs, right? But she really thought that this, well, maybe she's giving him a healthy cereal. That was kind of her reaction to me. And
that reminds me
say it again, louder.
Yeah. When I was growing up, though, like my mother refused to get kid cereals, what she called kid cereals and sugary cereals. So we got like plain corn flakes, which of course, when she wasn't looking, you put sugar on it.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking, Carrie, where we switched to bird. Like I had that life. I lived it. We did Rice Krispies were fine. Plain Cheerios, not Honey Nut. Plain Cheerios were fine in my house. Plain cornflakes, grape nuts.
Oh gosh, nuts? Yep.
You have to let them soak for 5 hours before you can eat them because they're so
Oh
hard.
man, you crack
But
a
yeah,
tooth on those things.
we would dump sugar all over it when mom wasn't looking.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
yeah. So I mean, it was better, I think, than so. Like we never had sodas in the house, for example, any kind of carbonate, like Cokes, anything like that. We didn't have, and of course, not candy was. We didn't have candy in the house. So there were some things that were. I mean, it could have been worse, when comparatively speaking, but still, I mean, this cereal is healthier than this cereal. Not really, not in any measurable way. I mean, there's
Mhm,
no
mhm.
added sugar, but that's about all you can say about it.
Right. Yeah, gosh, my mom definitely cooked us, you know, 3 squares a day or whatever, and it was always, I mostly remember dinners because we ate as a family, and stuff that
Hmm.
most people don't do nowadays anymore, and it was always a meat, but it was usually like a lean meat, so like chicken or fish was probably 4 days a week, 5 days a week we were having chicken or fish, and then it was some like a vegetable and a starch, so like a green vegetable, and then, potato or rice or something. Um, but we definitely had non-fat milk. I mean, I remember when that switch happened and she
Hmm.
did like non-fat milk for the adults, like my mom and dad. And then she would give us kids like 1%. It got from down to 2% down to 1%.
Yeah.
And she thought she was doing better for us, right? And it was mostly don't give them the non-fat because it just doesn't taste good. It had
Oh, yeah.
nothing to do with the content of the fat, the sugar, none of that stuff.
Hmm.
But I remember going to margarine. I remember all that stuff. And she really thought that she was doing better. I can remember my mom telling me the line of, if it's a saturated fat, it's like solid at room temperature, so you don't
Hmm.
want to eat that because that's what happens in your arteries. Like I remember her telling me that. And in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, quote unquote makes sense.
It's not,
Um,
looking back, my mom never really said anything about the fat in food.
hmm,
Her main concern was sugar. If she mentioned anything at all,
yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
usually about sugar.
But
But
didn't your
my
mom end up
grandfather was diabetic, and
yes.
his was controlled by diet. So my grandmother cooked, and I mean, and I don't know, you may be too young to remember this, but I mean, I remember like in the 70s and early 80s in a movie, like if somebody went to a restaurant and they had a diet plate, it was cottage cheese and a hamburger patty with maybe
Mm,
lettuce and a tomato on the plate. I mean, that
yeah,
was a
I do
diet
remember
plate
that.
back then, like in the
I do
70s and
remember that.
mhm. And
Yeah.
then it just gradually got to the point. But yeah, so my mother's, I guess maybe she just didn't, I don't know why she didn't. I just don't ever recall her saying, oh, well, that's too fatty or anything like that. It was
Mhm.
just more of how much sugar something had. But of course, there again, um, you know, just because it's not sweet doesn't mean that it doesn't convert to glucose and cause harm. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, my mom would definitely cut the fat off her steak and like my dad's steak. She usually bought sirloin, which doesn't really have, I mean, here they trim all the fat off, but if there was fat, that was my favorite part. And she
Uh-huh.
wouldn't tell me like, don't eat that, but you could kind of tell, like I could kind of infer, I guess, that
Uh-huh.
she didn't think, but I think she didn't want to give me like a complex or like an eating disorder or something. So, and I'm a kid, so, and I was, not overweight and stuff. So, I think it just came from that, but I think she almost wanted to say something. You could almost see that she wanted to say something, but I'd eat it and be like, "That's the best part."
Hmm.
That and the chicken skin.
Oh yeah, I used to love to eat
That's the
chicken
best
skin.
part. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I would eat all of that stuff, when I could get it. Um,
Hmm.
but, I wanted to talk about, like, the holidays are coming up, Carrie, and,
Oh yeah.
like, what are your plans? So, like, I know for Thanksgiving we always get together on my side of the family. It's easy with my mom eating keto the way she does. And last year we had a pasture raised turkey, which was actually delicious. Like I have never had pasture raised turkey before. Now let me say it was $10 a pound. It was not
Yeah.
cheap. It was
Mhm.
bought from the same farmer that I bought my half beef from.
Mhm.
But it was delicious. I'm like, I've never thought turkey was delicious in my life. It didn't even really taste like what I think of turkey tasting like the grocery store turkey. I can't really
Yeah.
explain it. really good. So I begged my mom. She's like, but it's $10 a pound. I'm like, but Mom, it's once a year. It's so good. Just get us a turkey. So she did. So we're doing that again. And we're doing like the same thing we did last year. So I'll bring a picanha, and my mom's doing a turkey and a pork shoulder. So it's like a 3-meat Thanksgiving. And then whatever the carb eaters want, they can bring. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing that again. It worked out very well last year. I'm excited to see this year because my son wasn't carnivore yet. But he did like that pork shoulder. And I remember being surprised by that, like, oh, wow, okay. And he ate a bunch of that last year. So I'm interested to see, how Zach will do, what he'll do, now that there's going to be this 3-meat, what he'll choose to do. But that's kind of what we're doing. It's very easy for me because I have my mom. Kind of eating's very, very similar to how I eat. It doesn't really cause an issue where I have to I don't know, just fast or get myself really full before I go or do any of these other tricks that I have, for other types of situations. But what do you have going on for Thanksgiving coming up?
I'll be going to my daughter's house. And of course, the good news is, while neither of my kids is really what you'd call low carb. I mean, my daughter kind of cycles in and out of it. And, I think part of it has to do with my grandson. Of course, he's 16 now. But, kids, as you know, it can be, especially if they haven't been raised that way, it can be more difficult to get a kid to eat that way or to, so I know that she's struggled some with that. But neither of my kids ever were afraid of meat. So that's a good thing. And they weren't ever afraid of fat. So, there's always, and Cassandra, my daughter, knows how I eat. So there will definitely be food that I can eat. I know last year at Thanksgiving, while I was going to ask you about
this.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, while I did not have bread or I did eat this big Craig bowl full of sweet potatoes. Oh my gosh. So I'm not going to do that again.
Okay.
I may possibly have a spoonful or something, maybe, and I kind of doubt that I even will, because once you do that, that's just it. You just know, and so you can look at it and be like, no, it's not worth it. I'm not even going to touch it. So. But yeah, I'm going to her house, and there'll be plenty that I can eat. And I think I might make, which I know they would fall over if this actually happened, because I'm not a cook and I don't pretend to be, but I found Lynn from Midlife Carnivore. She told me about a gelatin recipe that it's sort of it's a carnivore jello, basically, and you can use element in it. And then you use gelatin. It's easy. So it'd be easy enough that I could do it. And so I might make some of that and take it with me.
You need to make a video about that. And that's the thumbnail. So easy. Even Carrie can do it.
Exactly.
Even Carrie can cook it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the meat. My aunt, so last year and I haven't decided. I'll probably eat some. So last year, my aunt, okay, get it together, Cristie. My aunt is famous for her desserts, and she makes these beautiful cakes. You would think she was a professional cake decorator. And when I got married, she actually made my wedding cake. That was her wedding gift to me. Wedding cakes are expensive, y'all. Even 25 years ago or 26 years ago when I got married. And so she made my wedding cake, and it was beautiful. And so she does that. She makes cakes for people on their birthday and stuff. And she doesn't do that for me anymore because she knows I'm not going to eat it. But when she found out last year, she found out that I had gone keto, because that's what I did first. And then she knew that my mom was keto. She didn't know that I had gone carnivore at that time, even though I had. She lives in California too, but pretty far away, because, it's here in Southern California, the traffic can be horrific. And to get to her house, have to go kind of through the LA area. And so, yeah, it's like 2.5 hours, to get there. So we meet up maybe a couple times a year. We'll meet up for food, to have a meal together. I love her to death, and she's awesome. But anyway, she didn't know that I'd gone carnivore. And so she usually brings 3 desserts to our family, at Thanksgiving and Christmas when we're doing these get-togethers. And it's kind of her thing that she'll bring the dessert. And last Thanksgiving, wasn't planning on eating dessert, but she made this like keto cheesecake. I mean, she went out of her way to buy like the I think it was Swerve, like the non-sugar sweetener and everything, and to do this cheesecake. And so, and she's kind of cool. Like, how some people will say like, so-and-so made this thing and then I didn't want it and then it hurt their feelings. Like, she's not going to get her feelings hurt if I don't eat it. Like, for sure she's not. But at the same time, I love her to death. And I asked her what was in just the filling. So like the crust was like almond flour and like butter and what, I don't even know. So I was like, well, I'm not going to eat that. Like, I didn't want to go that far. But inside the cheesecake was like eggs and cream cheese. And it was stuff that I would eat except for maybe the sweetener. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have a piece of her cheesecake and just leave the crust. And it was really good. And the cool part was I didn't eat more. I didn't eat a second piece of cheesecake. I worried. I'm like, if I eat this, am I going to want another piece or want to take the rest home with me? Like, I didn't. Like, I ate what I ate. I was satisfied with what I ate. I didn't take the rest home. I think the next day I was like, you know what? That cheesecake was good. It might be nice to have it, but I'm glad I didn't bring it home. And then after that, I didn't have another thought about it. And so she brought another one to Christmas. And so I did the same thing and it like wasn't an issue. So if I had to bet, I would bet that she'll bring another cheesecake like that.
Yeah.
Even though nobody else eats it. Like, she'll make the whole cheesecake. No one else will eat any of it because they don't want anything to do with anything that sounds like keto.
Oh my gosh.
So my mom and I will have a piece. Like, Zach would probably have a piece if he liked cheesecake, but he doesn't like it. Like, that was something we experimented with when we first switched him over because he was so used to having sweets every day. We were finding substitutions for him that I was okay with him having that weren't all full of sugar. And he's like, ugh, no, he didn't like it. And so anyway, my mom and I will have a piece and probably the rest will go in the trash, and she knows that and she'll make it anyway. So it's like, cause my mom won't take it home either. She doesn't want to be eating that stuff. Like, she doesn't want to eat a whole cheesecake either. So anyway, I might do that or I might not, depending on if she brings it. But the cool part is I found when I was keto, I could not moderate. I still could not moderate. And I don't think I can moderate most things. If I ate a bite of sweet potatoes, the whole bowl would be in my belly before I knew. Like, if I'm going to have one bite, like, why have one bite? Like, if you're going to eat it, and then you get a problem because it's like, now you want more and more and more and more. And then how do you stop? Like, when that cycle starts again.
Okay. Annabella has a good question. Could you freeze the cheesecake?
I could freeze the cheesecake, but I don't know that I want to freeze the cheesecake. I could do it. I don't want it in my house. My mom might do that. I don't want to be eating that much stuff that's so highly palatable. Like this week, because of what I had available to me in my house, like I didn't have enough picanha. One day for lunch, I had tuna with some mayonnaise in it. But I didn't have enough. So stuff for lunches. And so I just ended up making a lunch like my son eats. And so twice this week I had cheese with my lunch, and I don't eat a lot of dairy, but it's not a problem for me to cut up an ounce or two of cheese, eat it for lunch, and then not keep craving cheese.
Yeah.
But if I ate a piece of that cheesecake, like if I did that like every few days or something until that cake was gone, I would have a very hard time, I think. Probably because of the sweet taste, but when I was keto, I would keep going back to the fridge for more cream cheese. Like I would eat an ounce or two of cream cheese with like a little sweetener on it, maybe a little vanilla in there, and just eat it and then be like, that tastes like more. And then I'd go back for more and more and more. With carnivore, I find it easier. Like I can have that piece of keto cheesecake without the crust and be okay and not have this compulsion. Or cheese, I can do that. Like I did that twice for lunch this week. I don't want cheese right now. Like I'm gonna have my steak later. I don't want any cheese.
Right.
But I can see probably that when I was keto and still having that stuff on a more regular basis, it was a problem. I just don't want to open that door again because I'm feeling too good.
Yeah, and among things like I'm very like in social situations, I do a whole lot better than I used to. I think I've told this story before, though. I think where I finally came out of my shell, and this was before I went carnivore, but it was like we had a work thing and they had gotten all these different kinds of pizzas. They were trying to accommodate everybody. They had a vegetarian pizza, no meat. They had pepperoni. They had sausage. They had the Hawaiian with the pineapples and the ham. So they had all these different pizzas. And of course, I'm sitting there going, oh, geez, And finally, you know what I did? I just scooped the toppings off.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I felt like a picky child, like the kid who peels the
Yeah.
crust off of his bread or something,
Yeah, yeah.
it was,
Mhm.
but at the same time, so then, people graduate, now they just know. But like, for example, we had a holiday party last year for work, and there were all these different desserts and things. And so, of course, my big thing is no bread, no cake, stuff like that. But I did have a sliver of cheesecake without the crust. And I think if you're going to eat something like that, then no, this is great. No, if it were Rick's pacemaker pizza, I would have eaten like probably, well, no,
All of it.
actually, I probably wouldn't have eaten half of it because it would be filling
It would
and
be
there,
very
yeah,
filling.
yeah,
True.
but
That's
yeah.
very true.
No,
Rick,
unfortunately, it
I want to know
wasn't.
if Rick has a video making that. I want a video, Rick. I want a pacemaker pizza video. Let me know if you have that on your channel, because I'm going to go find that after this if you do. And if not, you need to make me one.
Yeah, and my
I want to
brother,
see how you make that.
I don't know if it's Rick's pacemaker pizza or what, but my brother did find a video about, and now, of course, I know there's several out there. I mean, I remember from years ago, there was the Fathead pizzas. Tom Naughton, I think his brother actually came up with the recipe for the Fathead pizzas. But anyway, my brother found one, so we're going to make pizza together. And yeah, that's another great update. My brother, my almost carnivore brother, he's doing really, really well with it. So he's still not exactly, he's not quite carnivore, but he is I would say he's ketovore. He's very low carb. I mean, he stays away from the breads, certainly no bread, no pasta. He did have a Carrie moment with peanut butter because he does love peanut butter. And so he decided to get a jar of peanut butter, and he ate some peanut butter, and he said he woke up in the night and his stomach was cramping and stuff. So
I bet he won't do that again. I bet he learned his lesson.
yeah. So it's just funny how once we adapt, and I think we get accustomed to feeling bad. And so most of the time when we eat certain things, we don't really notice a pointed effect with it because we're just accustomed to feeling kind of meh anyway, unless it's just a drastic side effect. But then when you're not eating that stuff anymore, and then you decide to try it, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. I went on vacation, and I ended up eating. I had an Irish breakfast, which all of it was carnivore friendly, except for they had a small cup of baked beans, and I was still hungry. They didn't give you like huge portions, so it sounded like on the menu like it was just going to be this big huge pile of food, and I mean, but it wasn't. So there was this cup of the baked beans, and against my better judgment, I did eat those. Yeah. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a huge bowl or anything. It was just a small cup, but it was like, nope, never again. Oh my gosh. I was bloated for like 3 days and just,
Ugh.
it was terrible. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I mean, it didn't really make
Yeah.
me sick or anything, but I was uncomfortable. And so I just knew, okay, yeah, I'm not doing that again.
I'm excited here that the weather is cooling off. Like the lows are down in the 40s now. Later this week, it's supposed to get down into the 30s at night. And I want to make a big pot of my carnivore chili because in the
Oh,
summer
yeah.
here, it's over 100 degrees. It's like way
Yeah.
too hot. Like Rick's talking about, it's been too hot to make his pacemaker pizza. But Rick's in Florida. I think it's hot all the time. So once you get that air conditioner installed, Rick,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can cool it off. I want to see that pizza. But here where I am in Southern California, our winters here are cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking forward to pulling out this. I have like a cast iron. It's like an enamel coated, but it's cast iron Dutch oven.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I made this delicious chili in there. It was like carnivore chili, and I am looking forward to having that again with like a little sour cream, maybe a sprinkle of cheese on top. So good.
Mm-hmm. And I do
Food that I
that.
just don't do
It's
during
gotten to
summer.
be a Christmas tradition now. So, everybody knows that I don't generally cook, but I have a chili recipe, a carnivore chili recipe, and it's very simple to make. And so I've been doing that. I was actually making chili before, and I never really liked beans in my chili. So the chili that I used to make did not have beans in it. But 3 years ago, I started doing this chili on Christmas Eve, and people would come over. And so the last couple of years, though, I've done it, more of a carnivore way. So I'm going to have my carnivore chili at Christmas, but I may end up making a batch before then, because it's been getting cooler at night here too. And like a couple of weeks ago, we had temperatures in the 30s. And I was like, I refuse to turn my heat on. I'm not turning on my heat, because I knew it was going to get hot again.
I caved. I turned it on. I just couldn't get ready for work. Like, I hate when the house is cold. I'm getting ready for work and I get out of the shower and I'm all freezing. I'm like, nope, I caved. I turned my heater on. So
the good news for me though is my commute. My commute isn't that far. So, I mean, I can take a quick shower and it's not, and then I walk in and, walk into my office.
Yeah. I have a little bit further commute than you do. I have to go all the way to like a real building.
Yeah. And, I've gotten so spoiled. It's sad, really. Because the thought of, and I had it easy, because like I could drive or even walk from my house if I had to the train station. There's a train station.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I could take the train into Nashville. And so I was spoiled. I had my train friends and I do miss them. I still talk to a lot of those people. Mm-hmm. But now just the thought of getting up and doing all that every day before you even start your work seems exhausting. Isn't that terrible? Like how we get soft really easy.
So we taught online for over a year, right? Because of the whole, mandate to stay home and closing up the schools and all of that. And the part I didn't like was the student engagement was almost nothing. The parents didn't really think that it was that important for their kid to actually show up for class or do any of the work. And then the school district was pushing, you just got to give them grace because we're going through this hard time as a country. And so just pass them, just give them grades. Like if they show up, just put a good grade in the grade book. If you see them anywhere, like even if you don't see their two eyes looking at you through the Zoom or whatever, it was Google Meet that we use. But anyways, you got to find them. If they comment in Google Classroom or they watch a video that you've posted, you give them attendance credit for the day and like all this crazy stuff. I didn't like that part because I knew that even though I was doing my very best and I was creating all these materials and whatever, but like it was reaching the ones that probably would have gotten an A anyway, because they're, responsible, but the ones that maybe were already struggling or had a rough home life or whatever. Yeah, they weren't learning. So that part I didn't like, but the part about my commute, like this whole room that I have here, this was all set up because of that distance learning. And I loved it. I could just walk. And then like when my meeting was over, like at 10 a.m. or something, I could go like throw some laundry in or, stuff that I could never do when I'm like out of the house for 8 hours every day. It was so cool. And then it just made it was easier to like keep up with things in the house and, just because I was here and I'm a kind of an introvert anyway. So it was easy just to kind of stay here. I like computer things and like, I really liked making all the slideshows and I really got into creating like links, and I had my little teacher Bitmoji and I would read stuff and record it and have it where the kid could, listen to the reading for the day in my voice and stuff like that. It was fun. Like I liked doing all that stuff. I liked the content creation of it and being able just to work from here. But I don't think it's just not as like the kids, unless they really want to do it, they just don't engage, even though I tried to make it fun with lots of, like I said, I had like my little animated self that I was, doing stuff with and tried to make it fun, but it just, a lot of them just really didn't interact with it, which was.
Well, I think it's really hard on kids because for the most part, kids are supposed to be, I mean, that's a whole part of your development is being social, of being in the tribe. And then you have the different age groups of kids. Like Dr. Berry had done an excellent interview with, her name escapes me, but she was the one who I believe she coined, or maybe because of her, the term free range kids. I mean, it's funny because that's how we used to be.
Yeah. Free range 80s kid. I was a free range 80s kid. You didn't keep track of us. Just come back when the street lights go on.
Yeah. Otherwise, and she was talking about, the value of kids being able to just interact and to, the different age groups and how the older kids usually will help the younger kids. And just, that's a whole part of learning how to function in the tribe. And with two things have really messed that up for kids. And of course, one is, like social media, the whole cell phones and electronic devices, they just don't interact in person as much. And it's really, and then you take them out of school. And I really think that messed a lot of kids, just messed with their development and messed with their minds. I mean, because kids were not meant to be isolated like that. They just weren't.
Right. Well, and let me tell you, because of incidents at school, and it made me think when I watched that interview, I'm like, you know what? We do that at our school. She's talking about it's so sad that kids can't interact like at cross age ranges. So like in my school, we have kids as young as 3, because there's like a preschool. And then we have kids as old as like 11. And they never interact. Like all the recesses are separate. And like even so with 4th and 5th grade, they're at opposite times. So like 5th grade goes out to play, and while 4th grade eats lunch, and then they swap. So 4th grade comes in to eat while 5th grade is up, because they don't want them interacting, because there's cross-age incidents, negative incidents that occur, and the parents get all upset. And so the solution of the administration is keep every grade level separate from every other grade level. So like the morning recesses and the lunch recesses, they're all separated and segregated out, so that not like, so my 5th graders don't have the opportunity to interact like ever with a 1st or 2nd or 3rd grader. And then with 4th grade, it's just very kind of in passing.
I don't know that it happens even organically, like even outside of school. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I'm thinking that we went out for like recess, they called it, as like in your particular age group or your class. That part isn't really that unusual to me, but what we did do though is we had a lot of organic play outside of school. So like all the neighborhood kids would get together, and there would be, somebody that was like, 12 or 13 down to like ages 5 and 6 out there. And everybody would just be out there, and some people would argue about the rules of a game, or how this isn't how you do it or whatever. But then at the same time, though, it was like the older ones would teach the younger ones, and there was just, and disagreements, they would figure out the disagreements themselves. I mean, it wasn't like somebody would, once in a blue moon, somebody might say, I'm going to go tell, but usually they didn't, and they would just work it out themselves. And I don't think that happens that much anymore, because I think when kids get together to play now, it's organized. It's soccer, it's baseball, it's football, it's all these organized activities. And it's not stuff that just happens where they just get together, and they might, like kids, I mean, like they'll make up games, well, we're going to play base football. So we throw the football instead of a baseball, just as an example. They get creative with it, and they come up with rules, and sometimes they'll just make up the rules as they go. And then somebody will say, well, that's not fair. You didn't say that before we started playing, but they work it out. Now everything is organized, and they've got adults hovering over them. They're just not free to be.
So even at school, when we have recess, there's games they're allowed to play, like let's say handball, tetherball, basketball, soccer, like there's equipment for all that stuff. Volleyball, there's equipment for all that stuff, but there's school rules for all that stuff. And they're supposed to play only by school rules. And the reason for that is when they don't play by school rules, somebody doesn't like it. There's a lot of tattling, because the kids don't even know how to work it out for themselves, and they're cheating and they're whatever. And so they come running to the adults. And when they do that to me, if somebody's not physically injured, I'm like, I bet you guys can work this out. Figure out a way to work it out. But if somebody's physically injured, then I will intervene, but otherwise you guys need to work this out. But that's why. And so it's like, we're like sanitizing their life, and we're taking all of the critical thinking like out of all this stuff. It's just totally taken out for them. And it's all because, when they're allowed to do that, there might be conflicts and things, but then they're not allowed to work it out, because the parents get very like somebody called my kid a name and like, this is going to stop or I'm going to sue or yeah, if they
I
take it very, the
know.
parents take it very seriously. The parents react very strongly if something like that occurs, you know.
And here's, I still don't quite understand this because like I'm a Gen Xer. So I mean
Mm-hmm.
the Gen X generation, and I guess some of the millennials now, because the I mean, my daughter's a millennial. She's like one of the older millennials, you know, she's 39.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we complain, so to speak, about the younger generation, but then we sort of we made them that way. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know how there's this big disconnect in you know, the kids are brats. I'm not saying all of them. I mean, but you know, there's the stereotype,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, how is there this disconnect? Or is it really a smaller percentage of the kids that just mess it up for everybody, maybe, or the smaller percentage of the parents maybe that are just messing it up for everybody? Because most of the people I know, uh, they just raise their kids. I mean, like, of course, my kids grew up on a small farm. I mean, it was in a sort of an area on the outskirts of Nashville, but and there were neighbors like in a broad sense, but I mean, we had like what 11 acres, and so I don't know, there just wasn't that hovering over the kids all the time kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
going on. And most of the kids that I knew and you know, the parents and everything, they didn't treat their kids that way either. There wasn't that pampering. So I wonder just what it is, if it's really just the fact that maybe there's a smaller percentage that it just affects everybody. So it's like, okay, well, the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think I think it started off that way, but I think the percentage has gotten greater and greater of like the people that are really lawnmower parents, you know, just they don't want their kid to experience any kind of hardship, and they will, you know, they will get involved and they'll blame everybody but their kid. Like the responsibility is never on their kid. It's
Yeah.
always on everyone around their kid. It's on the teacher, on the other kid, on the, you know, the principal, on the whatever. And so they'll just jump right in there and, you know, their kid didn't do anything quote unquote wrong, negative, you know, their kid is perfect, their kid's an angel, you know, and it's everyone around them that's the ones causing the problem. And they want us to discipline. They want the school to discipline all the naughty kids, but not their kid. And so it's like
Right.
nobody wants the discipline to happen to their kid, but they want the school to have strong discipline. It like but every parent feels that way. And so it causes a
Ugh.
problem. And it's more and more of that. And California Ed Code now says that teachers are not allowed to take away recess anymore. It's in California Ed Code, Education Code, which is the law for education. So
Mhm.
it's like that was the last thing. And not that I would take away a kid's recess frivolously, that I do
Right.
think they need to get out and play, but I just mean we can't that it's very, so we don't have a lot of recourse. Like what what do we even have that we can discipline them with or take away from them? Like we can't, and that, you
Yeah.
know, so
Oh.
it makes it just very tough. Um, we were told we have to let kids go to the bathroom whenever they ask. We cannot tell a kid no. Like they're 11, they're not 3, they're 10 and 11, they're not 3.
Right.
And they get a before school at PE, which is the very beginning of the day. We tell them, go to the bathroom. I make a joke. I go, speak now or forever hold your pee. And they laugh, you know. But you know, from that time until recess, it's an hour and a half. But you'll
Mhm.
have 15 kids asking to go to the bathroom in that hour and a half. Do you know how disruptive that is? Because
Oh, yeah, very.
that's like every 5 minutes. Can I go to the bathroom? Can I go? I'm trying to teach a math lesson every 5 minutes. Some other kid, like a different kid, not the same kid, but
Right,
it's like
right.
I call it the bathroom train, you know, just rolls through the room. And we have to let them go. If they ask, we have to let them go. We can't say no. We can't say, please wait until recess. We just have to let them go. Well, then there's all these behavior issues in the bathroom. So there's kids going down there. One of my teachers, my colleague teacher across the hall, one of her students disappeared and was gone for 30 minutes. And she was making phone calls everywhere. Hey, can you go down? She sent a couple kids, like, go look for this kid. They came back empty-handed. She asked the teacher next door, who's like a specialist kind of teacher, hey, can you go down and send your aide down there or whatever? Couldn't find the kid. Eventually, she calls one of the principals. Go find this kid. He found this kid just laying on the bathroom floor. I mean, gross. Just to get out of class. But we have to let them go. We can't, we're not allowed to we're not allowed to say no. And so that so we have to we've been keeping track. So like the other teacher right next door to me had 37 bathroom sign outs in one day from her class. 37. We don't even have 37 kids. We have 32. So that means that people went more than once, but we just have to say yes at all times. Even though they have every hour and a half, they have a break where they could go. And we remind them, please go. And they all go. They all go in there. But they're allergic to math, right? I say, oh, we're allergic to math now, are we? Like, I make a comment about it, but it doesn't stop them from going.
Yeah.
Oh, I see your math allergy is acting up.
That's great.
But yeah, it's like we can't. They're just allowed to, and I'm not against a kid if they need to go, but I'm talking about kids going 2 and 3 times a day, every day. Yeah. And they don't have a medical problem, and if they go home and tell their parent, my teacher didn't let me use the bathroom, the parent comes unglued. In fact, that's what made the principal say you can never tell a child no, because the second grader was asked to wait 5 minutes. And the second grade parent did not like that and called the principal. So the principal's response was she sent out a blanket statement like, if a kid says they have to go, you have to let them go at all times, no matter what.
Man.
So it's difficult. It's difficult. And you see them come to school with these like 32-ounce water bottles that they're just like sucking on all day long. Like,
of course, at least it's water, I guess. I mean,
well, I don't allow it to be other things. If it's solid and I can't see through, it's probably Gatorade. Who knows what's in there. But if I can see it, I go, that's not clear. That's not allowed. You have to save that for recess or lunch, like only water.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I think it's getting worse. And now, because the parents themselves are like it's now not like Gen X or even Gen Y with the real little kids. It's parents that were already, younger Gen Y or like they're in their late 20s.
Yeah.
And so they were part of this generation that like kind of wants life to be this way. And so I don't know. I don't know where the solution is. I just keep trying. Like earlier, Doc Nelson was talking about, you could still educate them about the dangers of ultra processed foods. And I do talk about it. I'm like, that's just a bunch of sugar. That's not good for you. That's not a healthy snack. That's, I say stuff, it's very rare that I see anybody come to school with even like fruit or something for a snack. It's always chips and Gatorade and candy. And but it's really changed a lot. When I first started teaching, it was not like this. Parents did expect their kids to sit down, in 5th grade, they knew that they can write an essay, they can do all the stuff. And now if you assign them an essay, the parents are like, but that's hard. That's hard. Why are you making them do that? That's hard. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just keep
and
it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter-in-law, she can tell you some stuff that makes your hair curl. And you're just like, what? I mean, it's just like there's just not logic with it's like, I don't know. Dave Ramsey will sometimes say something like common sense is a superpower. I'm beginning to believe it. Like those of us who have common sense will rule the earth. I don't know if there's I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's an effort to make people just compliant and just these, I don't know. It's just bizarre to me. In the 80s, if you plunked these people down and dropped them into the 80s, they would have straightened up real quick. They would have straightened up real quick.
So here's an example of common sense. I like to have a little bit of humor with my kids, like, the speak now or forever hold your pee. Like I'll say stuff like that. And it's funny. Like first they kind of look at me like, oh, no teacher's ever talked to me that way before. And then they start to get it. And I really turn them into like 6th graders by the time they leave me, I feel. But like, for example, back when I first started teaching, because the big thing, and it was when we were kids too, put your name on your paper, and there's always no name papers, right? So I made this like little bulletin board, and I long time, like 20 years ago, right? And I called it the No Name Wall of Fame. So if their paper had no name on it, I would pin it to this bulletin board. And then it was like, oh, if you saw that's my paper, shoot. And they could put their name on it. Well, I was told, like, I think a kid went home and told somebody, and they told the administrator, and I was not allowed to do that because that's calling kids out. Like, you can't make a kid that makes kids feel bad for not putting their name on their paper. And I'm like, well, I could have just thrown it in the trash like some teachers do. Like, I thought it was funny. And so now I just do, I'm like, they laugh when I say it. And I say, I have a no name here, and if it's not claimed, I'm going to put it on the No Name Wall of Fame, which apparently is my trash can. And they giggle, and then they check the grade book and see if it's there. But yeah, I couldn't have a bulletin board that said No Name Wall of Fame and like pin it up there for people to go see if their name wasn't on their paper. Like if they had that's missing, I think I turned it in as one of those no name papers, mine. That was calling them out. That was making them feel bad. That was singling them out in front of everyone. So yeah, which I just think is silly. I thought it was funny, and the kids seemed to like it, and it was, but yeah, no, that was yeah, my feelings. Yes, Ellie, it's all about my feelings, and everybody gets their feelings hurt, like just so they're offended, like boom, instantly.
Yeah,
it's true.
Wow,
it's true.
Well, I think there's hope. I mean, I think there's enough of us out there that have some common sense, and maybe we will somehow, maybe the pendulum will swing, hopefully.
Yes,
And
I hope
common
so.
sense
I
will
know.
prevail.
Yeah, I work really hard with my kids on that. Solve your own problem. They're not allowed to say, I don't have a pencil or I don't have a chair, like things like that. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
think that's something you can figure out for yourself. They come in like that. They come in wanting me to find them a pencil, find them a chair, like if they're whatever. I don't have this or that. And usually I'll say, well, I don't babysit pencils, or like, I can't find my pencil. Well, I don't babysit pencils. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they go figure out, and then they stop saying it to me because I just keep saying that to them. Whereas I think they've been all this time, the adults, solve this problem. We've got kids, they drop their pencil and they just don't even know to just pick it up.
Oh my gosh.
Look down there. They just kind of go, oh, like, what do I do now? I'm not kidding.
That's not a joke. Gosh.
That's literal. That's literal. Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe a combination of some common sense and plus just the fact maybe eating better food, maybe there'll be a trend toward.
I hope so. I hope so.
Because I don't think people realize just how terrible the food is, and maybe even, gosh, like I'll tell people, just if you can start out doing these things, you're way ahead of the game. 1, no grains. 2, no seed oils. 3, no sugar. I mean, if you do those things right there, I mean, we're not even talking about what, other things that we as carnivores do, or even people in the low carb or keto community. But I mean, if you just start out doing those things, and then you'll gradually work into some of the other stuff, I think. But if you can just start those things and get rid of that, then you're well on your way. Oh,
yeah, I think it's gonna be really tough unless they, at least at my school, unless they change the guidelines, because the school food is based on those. And I do teach in a low socioeconomic area, so every single kid gets a free breakfast and a free lunch, and most of them eat it every day. Yeah. And so it's Lucky Charms, it's Pop-Tarts, it's all that kind of stuff. Something that came in a thing of plastic. There's days where there's no meat, although they don't call it like Meatless Monday or anything like that, but there is, like, I looked at the menu recently, there's at least one day where there's like a meatless, like it's like macaroni and cheese. That's what they serve them. So it's a lot of it's a lot of straight up sugar. Like for breakfast, it's just straight up sugar. And then for lunch, it's a lot of just carbs on top of carbs on top of carbs. And even the fruit is like, a lot of the fruit has added sugar. So it's not even just fruit. It's like strawberries. It's like this frozen strawberry thing that they give them that they call fruit, but there's added sugar in there.
Yeah.
So it's really sad. And even a lot of this because their families can't afford food, and that's a free meal for them or 2 free meals for them. So I get it. I just wish the guidelines were different so that it was a little healthier for them, you know.
Exactly. I mean, even if they, I mean, I don't know. There's got to be something. I just can't imagine that it would be. Well, I mean, I know they have agreements with these food companies. I mean, it's big contracts, and it's all, you know. So I mean, I understand why it's like that, but at the same time, I just can't imagine that. Well, when you just look at, I know that people talk about it being cheaper and whatever, and I don't know though. It's just at the cost of the kids. I think when you factor in medical problems and everything else, I think that it would be cheaper for the government to, subsidize healthy foods. Cheese, hamburger meat, for God's sake. It doesn't have to be steak.
Mhm.
If it could be hamburger meat and some, bacon. I mean, something. These
Yeah.
poor kids don't have a chance. It's not their fault.
No, it isn't their fault. It isn't their fault, but it is their problem. It's sad.
Yeah.
They can't
Someday
focus.
they're going to be watching YouTube and they're going to be, why am I so metabolically messed up?
Yep. Yep. I know. So we had a fall festival at school that I was it's a fun fundraiser, and I was very fortunate to have a lot of parents because I didn't have the energy, the desire, not even the energy, the desire. Like, I'm not artistic. I don't want to put a booth together. And like, where do you even get this stuff? I'm not going to spend my own money on like carnival games and things, but I had a lot of parents that very kindly, they ran different booths for us, and we made quite a bit of money for 5th grade. We want to bring a field trip to the school because to go to on a field trip has just become, I mean, it'd be like $6,000 for 5th grade to go on a field trip because the bus is so expensive and things. Anyways, we want to bring a field trip to the school, like a science field trip. And so we were raising money for that. And these parents, they ran all these different booths for us. They did a great job. But I was there, and it was crazy. These people coming up to me, you're Mrs. Keel. You were my teacher when I was in 5th grade. I'm like, oh, and my kid goes here now. And, I'm like, oh, really? Wow, that's amazing. Like, your face looks familiar, but obviously they're like 20 years older, right? I'm like, how old are you now? Oh, 30.
Yeah, I know. And it's just like, oh,
whoa. But the cool thing is I look enough the same because when I was their teacher, I was in my 20s, right? I look enough the same that they recognize me. I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. But to see the way that they look now, I mean, they don't look metabolically healthy. It was nice to see them and like kind of cool that they recognize me. But yeah, I was like a little bit saddened by the state of their, just the way that they look. Cause I remember them once I say their name and who they are, I'm like, oh, and then I instantly get a flash in my head of like 10-year-old them, and now I see them when they're 30 and it's like, oh my gosh, it's sad, but at the same time, the fact that I got to see those people and the fact that their kids are going to be coming up to me probably there was one with a kid in 1st grade, one with a kid in 3rd grade. So in a few years, I'm going to be teaching the kids of the kids that I taught. I think I've had it already before, but not regularly. It's been a few, but now I think it's going to start happening because now they're all getting like old enough. A lot of them, there's going to be more of them, because I've just been teaching long enough for that to happen. But yeah, it was like cool and sad at the same time,
It is. It's like, and I'm, Lord knows, okay, I went to a 40th class reunion. Okay. So yeah, I've been out of high school. I graduated 40 years ago.
Wow.
And of course we aged. I mean, nobody's going to look like they did when they were 18. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But man, seeing how unhealthy so many people are,
mm-hmm.
I was just, it actually kind of depressed me a little bit because I also had 2 friends, a husband and wife. They they died like a week apart. They were friends, in my original friend group, back in the day. And it just, that bothered me too. So I was going through a lot of just kind of existential type feelings or whatever. And, but it was really disturbing to me just how unhealthy as a whole, everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it doesn't even, it's not even how you look. It's just everything else. I mean, most people, I don't know, they looked inflamed, or they just didn't even look happy. Like their eyes just didn't have that sparkle to them. I don't know how to explain it. It was just, you could just tell though. It was just, if a person, I'm not even talking about weight. It was just overall, just how people were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is, and I'm only 58. I mean, it's not
Right.
like I'm 78.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
when I go visit my mom, I see it because she lives in a senior, like a 55 and up community.
Uh-huh.
And she's 72, and it was funny. She sent me her blood work. It's hilarious because she got like what her doctor's thoughts were on her blood work, but she's like, here's my blood work. And she
That's
texted it to me. She wanted my input. I was like, she's killing it. She's killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's out there doing 10,000 steps a day, like helping all her neighbors. And you see everybody else in there with canes, and she's always telling me about so-and-so went to the hospital for this or that, or she tries to get them in contact with me. There's been 2 people with diagnoses, and she's trying to get them, like she gives them my phone number, and I'm like, sure, I'll talk to them if they'll call me. They never call me, but it's like, it's sad, but she feels like she doesn't know it well enough to explain it, I guess. I'm like, I'll be happy to talk to them, or they can watch my YouTube channel or whatever. But yeah, it's very sad because yes, my mom is 72, but it's 55 and up. And so we go there for Thanksgiving. We use the big room, like they have a big room, that you can use, and we use that. So you see people walking around, and like nobody looks healthy like my mom looks healthy. It's very sad. Very sad.
Yeah, and then when you already start having friends die, like I had my best friend die in the spring, my best childhood friend. I mean, we were like sisters. She died. And then these other 2 friends, I mean, just in that short period of time. And it's just like, but we're only in our 50s. This is just, I don't know. It's sad. But anyway, well, it is 10:32 my time. So we've been online for an hour and a half. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. The sun came up. It was not up when I first started. It's up now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I know that you've probably got stuff that you've got to get done today on this Saturday, but it was great to get to just reconnect with you and to just see how you're doing. And so this has been fun, and we're going to definitely do it again. We need to make this a regular thing. At least once a month, we'll get together and just have a little update and just a chit chat and
girl talk. I love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear about your MRI. So we'll definitely schedule the next one, because I am like on pins and needles to hear about that one.
Yeah. Even if it's not worse. I mean, if it stays the same, that's going to be really encouraging. So yeah, we'll definitely set something up. So everybody who joined us today, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll be seeing you guys soon. You all take care.
Bye.